Yeah.
This is what's interesting about these polls. So you go, okay, what's the point of an elected official? Represent the will of the people. How the fuck do you know what the will of the people is?
Polling.
Polling is one way.
Let's see. That's one way. Maybe multiple polls from different groups.
Maybe multiple polls. Maybe town halls.
Maybe letters.
Maybe letters.
Maybe how many letters are you receiving?
How many letters did you
in
get?
support versus how many letters are you receiving that
There we go.
are against the bill?
So I have to look at my computer for this because there's like specific data that they polled. And so the problem with polling is not all polling is created equal.
Mm-hmm.
So like I could go do a poll right now and then someone could cite it, and I don't know anything about polling. So
There's a scale of legitimacy when it comes to polling.
correct. And so where the Lyceum is really interesting is because they've been around for a while. They've been doing this poll for a long time. They have really interesting longitudinal data about the change in sentiment of these questions they ask every year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's generally accepted that they are truly nonpartisan. So in 2025, one of the topics that they asked about was political division as a country. And the big theme that came out of it is 68% of Texans say they want political leaders to compromise and find common ground, not just fight for their beliefs. And then the follow-up question was, and this was a kind of open question with a number of options, who's responsible for the division? And so Texans mostly said elected officials are responsible for that division, more so than social media or anything else that was listed as an option. So where it gets more interesting is in 2024, they touched on the economy, and specifically they touched on marijuana. 48% of Texans said in 2024 that their family's economic situation has gotten worse in 2024 than in 2023. And in fact, it's the highest that they've seen of Texans say that their economic situation is worse since 2009, which is the year after the Great Collapse. 37% of Texans, voting Texans, believe that their kids will be worse off economically than they are, which is the highest that's been reported since 2010.
Damn, that's sad.
Inflation and rising costs were named as top concerns. And so you can see how this dovetails really interestingly into what I'm about to bring up, which is, we'll bring up teacup in a second, but regarding THC in Texas, 60% of Texans support full legalization of marijuana, which is a 14-point jump since they asked this question in 2015.
That sounds like a trend.
And then among those who oppose legalization, 42% of them, so you've got your 40% that are opposed to legalization, almost half of them support decriminalization. That means 73% support either legalization or decriminalization.
And we are both outlawing it and criminalizing
it.
Yeah.
So that's just one poll. So then you say, okay, let's go to another one. So we go to the Base Slice and Associates one, which was done in March of this year. Base Slice Associates is run by a guy, I think his name's Mike, something Base Slice. He was also hired to do the poll for the Texas beer wholesalers, the beer distributors of Texas. Sorry.
Wholesale beer distributors of Texas.
They hired Base Slice to come up with data to help them justify SB3 in the first place. Mm-hmm. So the same organization that did that poll does another poll, and it says 68% of likely voters support keeping THC legal but regulated.
Which it currently is legal and regulated.
It's currently legal and regulated. Only 20% want it banned. And then specifically, this is important for Mr. Governor Abbott in the current situation that we're in. 57% of Republicans support legal THC.
Yeah.
So to recap, Texans are more worried about the economy than ever. Probably a bad time to destroy an industry and the 50,000 jobs associated with it. The vast majority support reasonable THC regulations. Veterans oppose SB3. Thousands of them have used THC to get off of pain meds and anxiety meds that are handed out at the VA because that's the only tool they have. Teacup is regulatory capture, so it creates basically a monopoly. Hundreds of years of economics show us that results in higher prices, fewer choices, and lower quality over time for Texans and for consumers in general. As an elected official, your job is to represent the will of the people. So it sounds like the pro-business thing, the pro-veterans thing, the pro-elected official thing is to veto SB3.
It's so interesting because it's such a clear binary here where he either vetoes it as representation of what the public actually wants, or he lets it pass or passes it, which is in direct opposition to clearly what the majority of Texans want.
Correct. Pretty weird situation for him to be in. I imagine he'd be mad at Dan Patrick for even putting him in this situation in the first place.
Yeah, you got to assume that Dan Patrick knew what he was doing.
Yeah, so it's like, does Dan Patrick want his job? Or like, well, what's going on here?
Imagine if Dan Patrick was governor.
Be a tough time.
Yeah.
For everybody.
Yeah, that would be a sad state of affairs.
So then there's like the Nothing Burger Casino, as we refer to it.
Yes.
Which is like, well, what happens next?
So yeah, you just dove deep into the weeds of the political drama, of the data from these polls, like
of which Greg Abbott is an alumni.
Yes. Yeah. So
as well as Ted Cruz and several other senators and legislators.
I guess from a mental health therapeutic, what is the ideal perspective on all of this as two people operating a business that could be completely overwhelmed with worry about this situation because it very clearly it has the potential to negatively impact our business in a really big way.
Yeah.
But the perspective that keeps us sane, that we do a pretty good job of operating within most of the time, is that, first of all, it's all just noise right now. Everything is exactly the same. Walk outside, go down to the smoke shop on the corner, you can buy whatever you want. Like, nothing's changed. Literally nothing has changed yet. We just keep getting bombarded with news of like, it might change. Oh, now it's looking even more likely that it might change. The idea that we have the ability to assess the likelihood of whether or not he vetoes SB3 is, it's like a sports gambling addict, right? Who thinks they have an edge. You don't fucking know, dude. Nobody knows.
Nobody knows what's going to happen.
Like, if you're like, well, yeah, it's pretty likely now at this point that it's like going to go through. There's so many variables, right? That to sit here and play this fantasy game of
if this happens, then this happens. If this happens, then this happens. Well, then we got to do this now because we think we know the probability tree like this.
Yeah, like
What I have demonstrated to myself over and over again with extreme amounts of pain is I generally don't know what's best for me or other people. And I definitely don't know what's going to happen in the future. And when I start to think that I do know what's best and that I do know the future, I start to run into problems.
And every time it's like, oh, well, I'm glad that didn't work out because if it did, then we wouldn't have been led into X, Y, and Z. The more I run into situations like this, the more I just think like it's just noise. It's just noise to be ignored. Otherwise it's distracting me from the things I should be focused. It's like just sit down and do the work.
This is just all examples of us living in the future and trying to like. Basically, it's like it comes from fear of us trying to forecast what's going to happen so that we can like maneuver to try to protect ourselves, which is a lack of faith, basically.
Yeah, and it's this. I think it's this false sense that we have some amount of control over the outcomes, and that we need to be super prepared, right? Like, I don't think anybody is smart enough to make an actual plan that's going to work. I think that it's like there's like a bare minimum exercise that is productive of contemplating different potential future scenarios, but 99% of it is just reacting in real time to the conditions. It's like when the external conditions change, then we will change our strategy. Right now, the external conditions are exactly the same as they've been since we launched the company. So nothing has changed. There's a bunch of noise. There's a bunch of people yelling about different things. And there's a bunch of people saying, Abbott's going to pass it. There's a bunch of people saying he's going to veto it. It does, and then even once we get clarity there, what's going to happen with lawsuits? How
What happens with an injunction? What happens
with
with
even
this?
if it goes all the way through, what's going to happen with public backlash? Is it going to get so big that they like, you know, there's people protesting not to shut down their stores, and like, you know, maybe it bubbles up onto a national stage. Now they're trying to amend
the Miller Amendment or whatever.
They're trying to amend the Farm Bill. You could look at it like
so
that.
we got that article yesterday, and we were like, oh shit, this is bad news.
Yeah, this is bad.
We went straight into like future tripping.
After coming to terms with
Our current
all
state.
of the other news that was trying to vie for our attention, then we're finally just in the zone working, and then it's like Farm Bill
Amendment. Mary Miller Amendment's back. And then we're like, oh, this is bad.
Yeah.
Oh, this is bad. We better figure out how to sell more apparel.
I never like fully spiraled. It just took the wind out of my sails, and I was like, fuck it, I'm going home. And so, I was fine. I was just a little, you know, whatever.
And then today we hear, oh, it's, you know.
Well, today I woke up and just did I texted that article to like 4 different groups to see
What they thought.
What people who have been in the industry longer than us thought. And everyone was like, it's bullshit. It doesn't matter.
Big old nothing burger.
Yep. So, yeah, of course. So it's like, I feel like every time I'm getting super dialed into something, the noise machine picks up, and there's more like, hey, look over here. Hey.
Yep.
I don't know. That's what it feels like. And the more I go through these cycles, the better I get at just fucking hear no evil, see no evil. Just keep on marching forward, doing the shit that we know we need to do.
Yeah.
And that's where having a greater purpose is important, because it's a lot harder to stay. It's like, what are you staying in alignment with if you don't have a greater purpose, right? If we were singularly concerned about making as much revenue as we possibly could, then, and that was our greater purpose, make as much money as possible. If that was our greater purpose, then we would be devastated right now. We'd be,
And also already like making moves.
we'd be, yeah, but that's not the goal. That is a goal, and it's an important goal, and it's a priority, but it's not like what we're actually trying to accomplish.
Yep. Things have unfolded quite well, even though they didn't look like what we thought they were going to look like.
Yeah.
So I can only assume that they'll continue to unfold.
Yes.
And generally it works out better than I ever planned.
Yes. And I'm fucking done getting super emotional about the potential outcomes and which ones I want. At least I'm trying to be done.
Try to be done.
I'm pretty done. Like
Today, you're
every
pretty much
cycle,
done.
Every cycle of this kind of thing makes me more done with it.
Yep. That's sick. So I'm at the last chapter of DMT, Spirit Molecule.
Uh-huh.
He's getting real weird with it, and I am loving it. He's talking about his theories on... He basically starts the last chapter with like, okay, all these people did DMT. They say they met other beings. They say they went to other places. I tried to tell them it was just a fucking dream. They told me, no, that shit was real as hell. Way more real than a dream. It happened. And so then he goes, okay, let's say I choose to just at face value take them at their word that it happened. How do you explain what happened and where they went and who they met and what all that shit was? And now he's like getting into it.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
fucking tight, dude. So he's on some shit now about how like there's multiple dimensions and they may look a little different. They may be like mostly dark matter centric as opposed to whatever our matter is. I don't know what you call non-dark matter, and that shit behaves differently, and maybe they're over in that universe, and with DMT some quantum shit starts to happen in your brain where you can slip into these other dimensions, and it seems fucking weird, but to them it's really normal because it's all different physics.
The real weird thing about that realm is when you're there, you're like, oh, this is reality. I'm home.
Yeah.
This is like more real than reality is one thing.
Yeah, that comes up a
The other
lot.
thing is the sentient beings that you interact with are they're glad you're there. So
Yeah.
it's not like
All the people in the book said they were like waiting for them.
it's
almost.
like there's something fucking going on. It's not just even like trying to deduce it down to dirt and rock science, but there's multiple dimensions, and it's just, oh, we're just randomly fucking blasting into another dimension. And it doesn't seem like you would get exactly what you need every time you experienced it.
Yeah, it's like it
That
works
seems
too
a little-
perfectly.
Seems like there's something cohesive